welcome to the screen, Nisha Coleman.
Hi, everybody. So I have this feeling that follows me around a lot, and maybe you can relate to it. It's this feeling that no matter what I do or no matter what I accomplish, it will never be worthwhile or meaningful, kind of that my efforts will always amount to nothing. That's a bit of a downer. Sorry about that. But it's not, I mean, it's not that bad because I'm pretty used to it. It's a very familiar feeling. I grew up with it. I mean, it's as familiar to me as the forest where I spent my childhood. It's as familiar to me as the pond that me and my brother and sister would canoe in after school. As you're gathering, I grew up in a very rural environment. I was surrounded by hundreds of acres of forest that included a pond that the beavers made and they maintained by steadily fortifying this dam. And my dad would work very hard to steadily dismantle the dam. It was sort of our version of neighborhood rivalry. So growing up in nature, I mean, it's a pretty good place to grow up. In the spring, you would hear the peeper frogs, and they'd be so loud that the sound would distort in your ears. And all throughout the summer, the tree frogs, they would be chirping throughout the night. In the autumn, the leaves, they would burn yellow and orange and red. Now the winters could be tough. Sometimes we get so cold at night that the trees would pop. I don't know if you've heard of this phenomenon. It's when the sap freezes and expands, and it can cause a tree to like explode. And that would happen sometimes at night, and it would sound like gunshots. So our house was heated only by this wood stove in the basement. And heat would rise from the wood stove and it would heat the rooms upstairs. But my room was not upstairs, it was in the basement. So I always had to keep my door open if I didn't want to freeze. And by freeze, I mean literally freeze. I remember one night I woke up in the morning and my hamster's water dish had frozen. So that's how cold it could get sometimes in my room. So one evening, it's late autumn, so it's getting cold, and it's one of the first days that we light a fire in our wood stove. I'm 13 years old, and I would much prefer to close my door, to get a bit of privacy, but I have to keep it open or I won't get the warmth from the wood stove. So my door is open, but I'm reading on my bed. And my mom is not there. She's gone away for the weekend to visit my grandmother, her mother. It's 2.5 hours away. And she's taken my little sister with her. So it's just me and my brother and my dad. Now my brother is upstairs in his room, and my dad is doing what he does when my mom goes away. And that is he's drinking. And he's drinking quite heavily. He's been drinking for a while now. He's in his workshop, which is also in the basement. And I can smell the pipe smoke because he smokes a pipe, and I can smell this cherry tobacco that's sort of curling out from his workshop door, and it's coming into my room. And I don't mind it because I love that sweet smoke smell. And his workshop is a place that he spends a lot of time. It's not very big. It's about the size of a medium-sized walk-in closet. And he's a builder, so there's tools everywhere, all along the wall. There's hammers and rulers and tape measures, saws. And amongst all of these tools, there's a shotgun. He brought it home recently, only a few months ago. And he told us that it was for protecting the chickens. So shooting wild animals that were attacking the chickens, but he's never shot at anything. And I honestly don't think that he would. At 13, I'm not so close with my dad. We've been growing apart. We don't really talk that much, to be honest, but there are things about him that I really appreciate. One of them is his pipe tobacco. I truly like that smell. It's like incense to me. I like the fact that he's secretly writing a novel. He hides it under his bed, and when he's not around, sometimes I go and I sneak and I read pages from it. But I think my favorite thing about him is the fact that he plays guitar. And I started to learn the violin last year. And when I started to learn the violin, he suggested that we play together. So I learned a part right away. He wanted us to play Dust in the Wind, you know, that song that has a violin part. So as soon as I could, I learned the violin part because I thought it would be cool to play with him because it would sort of fill the silence that had grown so stark between us. But now I've been playing violin for a year and we still haven't played it. So I'm on my bed and the door to my dad's workshop opens and he comes out and I see him walk past my bedroom door. And he doesn't glance in my room. He doesn't talk to me. I just see him go by and I see that he has the shotgun in his hands. And I hear the back door close and I look out my window. And yes, I confirm he has the gun. He's walking slowly and deliberately into the woods with this gun. And the sun is going down. There's just this orange haze sort of suspended almost in over the forest. And I watched my dad disappear until I can't see him anymore. And what I realized is that this glimpse of him walking away might actually be the last time that I see him, because I realized that what he wants to do with this gun is end his life. And that this is probably why he bought the gun in the first place. So I don't know honestly what to do. I leave my room, I go upstairs and I just sit in his chair at the kitchen table. And the only sound I can hear is the ticking of the clock on the kitchen wall. And it's very loud all of a sudden, but time doesn't feel fast or slow. It's like the ticks are just empty. You know, they're empty, they're meaningless. They add up to nothing. And I'm imagining my dad out there in the dark woods. And I realized that I've not figured out how to make him happy. Like nothing worked. I don't know how to make him happy or proud or engaged. Not winning a race, not getting a good report card, not scoring a role in the community play. Nothing worked. It all just added up to nothing. And here was this accumulation of nothings. And he's out there and I'm in here sitting in his chair and I have no idea what to do. All I know is that I'm not doing the right thing, whatever it is. And this realization that not doing something could also be the wrong thing to do is just so paralyzing that I just sit there and I wait and wait and I wait. Once on my birthday, my dad wrote me this letter. Now, the letter goes like this. Did you know that when you were born, I was sitting in a tiny room at the hospital, chain smoking cigarettes. The doctor came in and he brought me into a room and he showed you to me. And did you know that I was so happy, I was so thrilled that I walked outside and I interrupted a stranger on a payphone to tell him I was the proud father of a baby girl. He was the first to know whoever he was, and he told whoever he was talking to on the phone the good news as well. Then I went home and I phoned everybody from every number in our address book, but I was getting the weight wrong. I told someone you were 22 pounds. I told someone else you were 2 pounds. People started to call back. They were thinking you might die if you were that small. They were thinking your mother might be dead if you were that big. I didn't sleep that night. I was thinking about all the toys you might need. You might need a toque. No, that might be too soon. In other words, I was beside myself with glee. Days and years, good and bad, have come and gone, but no one can take away the thrill, love, and joy that I had that day. Thank you for having that birthday. So, my dad wrote me that letter on my 32nd birthday. The gun did not go off that night. After a few hours of soul searching, he ended up throwing the gun into the pond. And he came home and he went to bed. And in the spring, when the beavers came out of their lodge to resume their work on their dam, they actually found the gun in the bottom of the pond, and they brought it out and they stuck it right in the dam with all the other sticks and logs. And I like to think that nature was somehow neutralizing that weapon, you know, by treating it like any other stick or log. They sort of stripped it of its meaning, and in doing so, they stripped it of its violence. So currently, present day, there's still a lot of silence between my dad and I. You know, we're pretty estranged, but he always writes me on my birthday, and he never forgets. He writes me on the day that I took my first breath. And in taking that first breath, in simply being alive and simply existing, I was able to make my dad happy and proud and engaged. So my birthday is in only 4 days, and I'm sure I'll hear from him in 4 days. And on that day, it's not really my accomplishments that I celebrate. You know, if anything, what I celebrate is the meaningful purpose of just existing, because sometimes that's enough, and sometimes that is everything. Thank you.